Hey guys, it's Keeley, and today I'm going to be doing the best books of 2016 that I read this year. Now, I'm not counting like rereads and stuff like that, and for me, the way I chose these books were books as I thought about them, like stuck with me through the entire year that I read them or through the last few months or whatever. So I just really chose the 10 books that stuck with me this year and that still I think about all the time. I read so many good ones this month, but I'm just excited to share these with y'all because I can't wait to talk about them. They were so good. So let's get on into it. And by the way, these are in no particular order. The first book I want to talk about is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is book 1 in the Lunar Chronicles series. I read book 1 and 2 this year, so this is kind of talking about both of them because they were both so good and just stuck with me through the entire year or the last few months that I read them, and they were just so good. If you don't know, this is a sci-fi series, and in this one in particular follows Cinder, and these books are sci-fi retellings of fairy tales, and obviously this one's a retelling of Cinderella. The second one is a retelling of Red Riding Hood, but this one in particular, Cinderella, so good. Marissa Meyer does such a good job at writing her characters and just making you really picture them. And I loved every character that you were supposed to love. I hated the ones you were supposed to hate, but the ones that you were genuinely supposed to love, I absolutely adored. And the story was just so good. And honestly, I haven't read many retellings, but this one was like so perfect in the way that it was told, and the sci-fi aspects was just so cool, and it really just stuck with me because Marissa Meyer's writing style is really cool and fast-paced, and you just want to keep on reading. Like, these books I read so quickly because I just can't put them down because her writing style is just so addictive. It's just really good, and I definitely recommend this series. Like I said, I've only read the first 2 so far. I plan on obviously reading the rest of the series, but the 2 that I've read so far are absolutely amazing. The next book I have to talk about is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the 3rd book in the Grisha trilogy. Now, all 3 of these books are really good, but like I said when I was picking out books that stuck with me, the final book in the trilogy is the one that really stuck with me just because this was a fantastic finale. I was super happy with the way things ended. So if you don't know, book 1 in this trilogy is Shadow and Bone, and it follows these 2 characters named Elena and Mal, and in this world there's these Grisha people who have like these different superpowers, and Elena and Mal grew up together, and they're about to go into this thing called the Fold, which is basically just like this cloud of darkness that has really creepy, scary creatures in them that like kill people. And so they're trying to get across the Fold, and when they go in there, one of them discovers that they actually have a Grisha power, and it's one that people have been looking for years. And so it's just really intense. I love books about like war and different battles and stuff, and there are definitely some battles in here. The main villain, the Darkling, he is a really good villain. Like, I'm not one to like villains, but I actually relatively like the Darkling, you know, a little bit. He's kind of cool, but I definitely recommend this series so much. It is so good, and like I said, it just stuck with me, and I think about it all the time. Now, a lot of people do love Six of Crows more, but for me, I liked this trilogy a whole lot more, and I just love it so much and want everyone to read it because the Grisha world is so detailed and really cool with all the like the magic powers that they have in the little training school that they have. It's just really cool, and the characters, I love them so much. Like, I really loved Mal a lot when I was reading this trilogy. The next book I have here is a contemporary book, and that is The Lost and Found by Katrina Leno. I have mentioned this book several times on my channel within the last few months since I read it, and it is just so fantastic. Honestly, one of my favorite books ever now. It was just really great. It follows these 2 characters, Franny and Louie, who met online and have been best friends for quite a while when they met online in a trauma support group chat thing for people who have survived different traumas. And obviously by that group you can tell when they were young they both survived very different traumas that happened to them, and it was just wow, really crazy. But yeah, they were best friends, they had never met, and then something comes up to where hey, let's take a road trip to Texas and meet up. They live on opposite sides of the United States, but they get this chance to meet in Texas. And as they are traveling to meet each other in Texas, they find something that the other has lost years ago. Like, Franny and Louie are both people that lose a lot of things, but it's not in the sense like you and I, we misplace things. They like put something somewhere, turn around, and when they turn back around, it's just like gone. They disappear. It has like a magical realism aspect in this book, which is very, very neat. And so it was really cool as they were traveling to each other, they started finding something that the other lost, which was just a really cool twist in a contemporary. And Franny and Louie are so, so cool. And I think this book really showcases diversity pretty well. There are different races and ethnicities, and there is also disability and mental illness and stuff like that. And Katrina just handled it so well and wrote it so well. I love Katrina's writing style. It just, like, I fly through the book when I read it because the writing style once again was just so addictive, and Katrina writes characters so, so well, and they're so lovable, and they each have these different distinct aspects that I don't really read about much in YA, which was really cool. And I just really want everyone to read this book because it was just really fantastic and made me really happy. This next book is actually the biggest book I read this year, and that is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Now this is book 1 in her new series, The Dark Artifices. And oh my goodness, guys, I was so, so thrilled to be back into this world because I absolutely love the Shadowhunters world, and all the series, all of her books are just fantastic. This one is slightly different because we follow characters who grew up in this world, whereas in the other ones we follow characters who were just kind of thrown into the world. But in this one, they grew up in this world, so they know all about it and how to handle situations and stuff. But we follow this girl, Emma, whose parents were killed by this serial killer, and she's trying to figure out who killed them and like why they're killing all the other people in this brutal way. And guys, okay, Julian is the love of my life, and I love him so much. Like, these characters that we were introduced to are so amazing and so lovable. I cannot wait for Lord of Shadows because I just need more of these characters because they were just amazing. Like, simply put like that, amazing. This next book is House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is book 4 in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I read this entire series this year, so I read quite a bit of Rick Riordan, but this is the one that stuck out the most to me. This was my favorite in the series. They were all absolutely wonderful, so really the entire 5-book series I'm recommending because it was fantastic. So this also follows Percy Jackson and Annabeth and all the characters that we met in the Percy Jackson series, and I loved this one so much just because of the setting in this book. I don't want to give it away. It's kind of obvious from the look of the book and the title, but it was my favorite place that we went to in this series. It was so unique and different than all the other places that we visited. And we visited a lot of places, and I am very excited when I study abroad to go visit those certain places that they went to in the book. But this was just so cool and, like I said, different and unique, and I just will always read Rick Riordan. I will always love him. This series was amazing, but this was definitely my favorite book in the series that I read. The next book I have is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 1 in the Throne of Glass series. So far, I read this one, The Assassin's Blade, and Crown of Midnight, and Throne of Glass has definitely been my favorite out of those 3 that I read. This follows a assassin named Selena Sardathian who is in this prison, and she gets broken free by the prince, and she gets in this the King's Champion tournament thing where they have to try to win, and they become the King's Champion and do his dirty business. And I just really, really loved Selena a lot. And let me just say one last thing, I am Team Kale all the way, and I will be until the day I die, but I really loved this series. Selena was awesome, and I definitely recommend it. The next book I have here is The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is book 1 in the Wrath in the Dawn duology. I haven't read the second one yet, although I really, really want to. But this book is a retelling of 1001 Nights. You know, the story where the king gets a wife, and then every day at sunrise, the wife is dead, and he just keeps doing this cycle of marrying and killing and marrying and killing. And so in this book, the main girl, Shahrazad, I know that's wrong, so I'm gonna call her Shazi because that's what she goes by. But Shazi's best friend is one of these wives and she dies. So Shazi actually volunteers to be the king's wife so she can get her revenge. And then when she is the wife of this king, she realizes that there may be more to the story than what she actually knows. And so it's just really, really cool. And as Shazi falls in love with the king, you start falling in love with him too, which is a really cool aspect to the story. And I just really loved this story and this setting because, like I said previously, I had never read anything like this before in this setting. It was just really fantastic and I can't wait to read the sequel, and I just really, really recommend this book, and also it's very beautiful. This next book might be my favorite book of the entire year, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is book 1 in this series. This one and the sequel are out, A Torch Against the Night, which that one would also be on my list, but I'm only doing one per series. But let's just say both of them are absolutely amazing. I honestly can't choose which one I liked more. But this one follows Leia and Elias, who are two completely different people. So it's a dual narrative story, which I absolutely love. But in this book, of course, the Empire is absolutely terrible and just really, really bad. And Leia is kind of known as the peasant, like the lower class, like slaves, and it's just really, really bad. And so with Elias, he is in this really top-notch academy, kind of like a military academy called Black Cliff, and they are training them to be masks, which are basically just murderers. And Leia, her family gets killed and taken and everything, so she decides to go undercover in this school to try to save her family. And it's just really, really intense because she is like this slave, and she's never really been a slave, but when she's undercover she has to pretend to be a slave, and so that's just such a hard life. And Elias, you know, he is being trained to be a murderer, but he's not like all of the others. And I loved these characters so much. These are some of my favorite characters ever. And honestly, the characters in this book that you were supposed to hate are like my most hated characters ever. Like honestly, like how many? There's like 2 characters in here that I cannot stand, and I hope they get what's coming to them because it's just, they're just so awful and they do so many awful things, and they are 10 times worse than Professor Umbridge, let me tell you. But I just love this series so far. I can't wait to continue, and I cannot recommend it enough just because it's so fast-paced, so awesome, and the world is just so cool, and I can't wait to delve deeper into it. This next book is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the sequel to Illuminae, which is a science fiction series. And anyway, in Illuminae, you follow 2 different characters than you do in this one, but in that one something happens to this ship, and so they're trying to get to this other ship to survive, and the other ship they're trying to get to is actually this one that's in this book. But then something goes down in this book, and it's just crazy all the attacks that happen. And like in the first one there's this crazy sickness that breaks out, but really this series has like some really strong powered women, which is really, really cool. And also I love Nick so much. He is the male character, the main male character in this book, and he is just, I love him. He's like the typical bad boy that you shouldn't love, but I love him. And it's just really, it's really hard to explain this series, but basically this is the jump station, the spaceship that the characters of Illuminae are trying to get to, and then they find out this is not a safe ship either. But it was just so amazing. Honestly, I think I like this one better than Illuminae just because I liked the characters slightly more. All of these characters are amazing. I can't wait to see them like all get together in the 3rd book, which is going to be really, really cool and also really, really beautiful. So that's always good. And the final book I have to show you is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is a really, really interesting story about a princess named Leah who is set to be in an arranged marriage, and she's never met the guy. So before the marriage can actually happen, she decides to run away. And in the meantime, while she's running away, the prince that she was supposed to marry goes after her, and also an assassin from another kingdom goes after her. And so you get narratives from all three of those characters, but the entire time you don't know who is the prince or who is the assassin. So it's really, really cool because you fall in love with both of the men in this book, and then at the end there's this plot twist and you just find out everything, and it's just crazy because you love them, so you're like conflicted, like who am I supposed to like now, the good guy, the bad guy, like who is she supposed to be with, I don't know. But I also really loved Leah as a main character. She was such a good character to represent women. She was really, really awesome and just strong-willed and just did what she thought was best for her and what was right for her, other than like what was right for other people. And this book was just so fast-paced, and she really makes you fall in love with these characters. Like I said, it was just really, really good. I have yet to read the sequel, but I'm very excited to, because the way this ended, I need to know what happens. Okay, so that is it for my best books of 2016. Let me know down below what your favorite book of the entire year was. I know that's super hard to choose, but maybe there's one that sticks out to you. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my social media links will be down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!